a lot because of the crowd that he hung around with. Right before I moved in, 6 friends came to hang out with Jake one day and ended up staying for 2 weeks, draining Jake's bank account on various drugs and absolutely trashing the condo. Jake was lonely and never said no to people. He wanted them to like him. Honestly, I think Jake was 14 to 15 years old mentally. I think he turned to drugs to deal with depression and anxiety, and also to fit in with the people around him. He's much better now. It was a sweet gig. I was paid very well, lived in a nice condo rent-free, and basically just had to keep our house clean, keep food in the fridge, and make sure he took his meds. When I moved in, my boss, Jake's mother, warned me about a girl who occasionally stayed with her father, who was our downstairs neighbor. She told me that the girl was named Amber, and she looked younger, but she was 37 years old, tall, blonde, and very thin. She was right.
Teleport's ready.
She did look much younger, about 25. She said Amber didn't have a car or a job, and she was an addict who liked to use Jake. Amber's father had custody of her 2 children, and she would come to visit the kids and stay for a few days a week. She said one day Amber asked to borrow Jake's car for an hour, and ended up running off with it for 2 weeks. Amber was also the one who introduced Jake to the 6 friends who trashed the condo. She was bad news, and never allowed in the condo. She wanted me to call her immediately
planted.
if Amber stopped by or Jake went anywhere with her. After the theft, she put a GPS on Jake's car and allegedly she could stop the engine. My boss made it clear that she didn't expect me to be a security guard. Just notify her of things that were going on.
One enemy remaining.
Leading up to this event, I had a few run-ins with this Amber, where I had to politely tell her that she wasn't allowed to come to the apartment. Jake could not take her to the store or anywhere, and no, Jake couldn't go to a party at her boyfriend's house.
What's another
Amber was always spaced out, like she spoke really slow, seemed wide-eyed and off.
Fight is diffused.
She explained to me that she had been hit by a car while riding a bike recently, and complained that she was the one who ended up going to jail.
Smart.
I was like, how? Apparently she takes a lot of Xanax and was under the influence. So I think that explains the spaced out part. She never sounded aggressive, but it was clear that she didn't like me, and would often say things like, Jake is his own person. He's a 21-year-old man, he doesn't need permission. And whenever she spoke to Jake, when we saw her at the gym or the parking lot, she would be whispering to him. No doubt trying to manipulate him into giving her money.
Spike down B.
Anyway, on to the incident. Jake was out of state with his father, giving me a mini vacation. My best friend was staying over to spend a few days with me, and we were drinking PBR and watching RuPaul's Drag Race. It's about 11 p.m, and we hear a light knock on the door. I go to investigate through the peephole and see it's Amber. I ignore her. She locks louder about 30 seconds later, and I watched her leave through the peephole and sit back down.
Last player
Telling my
standing.
friend the situation.
Damn, how many shots are you gonna take? 6
5
shots to the
minutes go
chest?
by,
What the
and
fuck?
she's back.
So it takes
This
2
time
headshots,
she's
6
pounding on the
body
door
shots.
like
What the
a
fuck you mean?
I'm getting pissed because I'm off work, and I don't want to deal with her crazy, especially when my friend is over. So I say nothing and go back to the kitchen.
One enemy
She
remaining.
starts knocking like a normal
Spike
person
down B.
and starts saying, "Hello, Jake.
30 seconds
I
left.
need help." I carry on ignoring her. Then I hear her try to open the door, but it's locked. And this enrages her, or something, and she starts screaming and pounding on the door.
Damn, the
non-stop.
track.
I get up and look through the peephole again, and she looks like a demon. Her pupils were huge, so I think she was on something. She looked crazed. Her hair was tangled and wild. She was sweaty and angry. Looking back, I'll never forget those wide pupils looking at me through an evil glare. I ask her through the door what she wants, and she said that she needs to speak with Jake right
A
now,
gift.
that he owes her money, and
All
she
set
needs to ride to her boyfriend's right now.
Teleport's ready.
I tell her Jake isn't home. She then asks me if I will take her, to which I say no. I've been drinking and that I'm going to bed. She let out some frustrated scream, punched the door and left. My friend and I went to bed shortly after,
Ooh,
and
that
didn't hear
lags
from
fight.
her again. The next morning, we're getting ready to leave to go have breakfast. I hear a knock, like policemen knocking at the door. You know the sound. I look through the peephole expecting to see Amber, but this time it's an actual cop. I open the door and can see my parking lot is full of police. There's a van marked crime scene unit and an
Spike planted.
ambulance. I honestly assumed Amber overdosed or something. The cop wanted to ask me
I'm
if
so
I
bad! Oh my god!
I tell him about my encounter with
What is
Amber
wrong with
and
me?
ask if she's okay. He tells me that she is in custody for the murder
Ugh.
of her father.
Clear my brain. My brain's
Does
in a
Jake
funk.
own a crossbow and is missing one? Yes. And yes. It's been missing for weeks. He
Last
says I
player
need to
standing.
speak to some detectives at the station.
Oh.
So I don't know if she came to my door
Well.
before or after it happened with a crossbow like she's Tyrion Lannister or something. But the detective told me that his theory was that she was a heroin addict and she was withdrawing and needed to get to her boyfriend's for some more dough. She tried to get Jake to drive her, and when that didn't work, she asked her father, who refused. Then, this is what went down. They argued. Our neighbors heard that. She ended him with the stolen crossbow and stole his
That
truck.
works.
She only got a mile away before she was
Google my
signaled
spot
by
first.
2 cops. She led the cops on a high-speed
Teleport's
chase
ready.
over the span of 2 counties before she finally lost control and crashed. The cops were only pulling her over on suspicion of drink driving, but when they went to speak to her, she told them that she was speeding because she needed to check on her dad. She thought that someone had ended him. They asked her why she thought that, and she couldn't answer. They sent police for a welfare check, and they found him before
Spike
her sons
planted.
did. So, that was the time my crazy, drug-addicted neighbor ended her father's life with my patient's crossbow. Please, let's never meet again.
Last player standing.
Walking headshots?
This happened
You're
2
fucking
summers
kidding
ago.
me.
While I
Ah,
was house sitting out in California for an older couple I had met at a conference for work. It seemed like a dream
Ah.
scenario.
that's kind of
The
dirty.
couple wanted to vacation in Hawaii for 2 weeks, but didn't want to board their cats, and I had been chatting with them about wanting to visit California, where they happened to live. Because I had loved it the first time I went,
Take aim.
and we figured that we
Zenfire.
could
Let's
mutually
not complicate
benefit
it.
if I came out and house sat for them. That's what we agreed to. I flew out there, and they showed me around for a few days, taught me how to care for the cats.
That's
2
a
of
good
them.
spot.
One was extremely shy and I barely saw, which is important later, and their plants, as well as give me access to their house and cars. These people were very generous, and before I knew it, I had dropped them off at the airport and I was on my own. At first, it really was the dream vacation. I was staying in Oakland and making forays into San Fran, Sonoma, and Monterey. In the mornings, I would walk out the front door and shortly be hiking the paths surrounding nearby Mount Diablo, and I was just ultra content with the world.
Spike planted.
I was so enamored that I had actually started
Oh yeah, of course you have
to
my fucking up,
relocate.
bitch.
About halfway through my final week,
So bad.
when I got back to the house, I felt really odd, almost like I shouldn't go inside. I shook it off and went inside anyway, because it was getting late, and I needed to put out dinner for the cats.
Interesting.
Once I was inside, I forced myself to ignore how off it felt, and I made some food for myself and went to bed. I was shocked to find the shy cat hiding under my bed and crying. This was the first time I had ever seen her up close. The entire time I had been there, up to that point, she never left the host's bedroom unless she didn't realize I was around. Again, I ignored feeling weird and just assumed she had decided I was okay and went to bed. I did start locking my bedroom door that night though. I also remember that about halfway through that night, I thought I heard someone walking around in the gravel outside my road. But after listening for a bit, I didn't hear anything.
I fucking really.
The day after in the morning,
I had to sneeze. Fuck.
kept up with my
Spike
plans.
So
planted.
bad.
I drove out to a little music festival in Sonoma and went clothes shopping and had a great overall
What are we
day.
doing, old puppy?
When I get back to the house though, I found the front door locked in a way I hadn't left it. Basically, my host never locks the deadbolt, only the lower second lock. And that's the only lock my key worked on. So I never messed with the deadbolt, but it was definitely locked. So I had to call my host and find the hideaway key, which to their credit, safety-wise, was buried like a whole foot in the bush outside and had definitely not been unearthed for a long time. So I used that. I went inside and took the key with me just in case it happened again. And it did, but for a
These guns
different
we use are
door.
okay, but I will also
This
bring
time
my
I
own.
had stepped out
No
into the
offense.
garage to get a drink, and when I turned around to go back into the house, the door was shut and locked. I could use my normal key on that door, but I was still pretty bewildered. My own cat so wang. So I think in my mind, I was trying to come up with a way the cats could be locking me out the house, but I was coming up empty. I decided I must have been misunderstanding how the locks worked, and just wrote it off and started checking and triple checking the locks when I went out the house or into the garage. That night, when I went to bed, there was a really awful feeling of unease that was still there. And so was the shy
This
cat,
lag.
who was clearly unhappy to see me, but also wouldn't leave my room. But again, I just locked my bedroom door and went to sleep. The next morning I felt awful, nausea, body ache, and I had no desire to leave the house, so I decided to stay on Netflix for the day. This vacation stay was like a full 2 weeks, so I didn't feel like I was in any hurry to get all my touristy things in.
Oh my god, what a shot.
I started to feel that feeling of wrongness again,
Hello, Ping, yeah?
and it morphed into the feeling of
Last
Okay.
player
being
standing.
watched.
Is that what we're doing here?
Around mid-afternoon, it got to the point that I was so uneasy that, even feeling awful, I decided to get out of the house for a bit to shake it off. I was getting a bit low on food, so I went to the grocery store and bought a few items that I didn't think would hurt my stomach. And I started to leave the checkout, and the cashier said the generic, "Have a great evening." And I just instantly started crying, shocking myself and the poor cashier, because I just had this
Focus
intrusive
now.
thought that
Eyes off
said,
me.
"You might be the last person to ever say that to me."
Teleport's ready.
When I got to my car, I was still crying, and my entire body was telling me not to drive
Spike down.
back to the
Attacker
house.
spawn.
I couldn't not though, because I didn't want to neglect the cats. So I drove back, parked in the driveway, and convinced myself after about half an hour to just open the front door. Once I did that, I thought I would get over it and be able to go in and at least feed the cats, and then maybe I'd get a hotel room after. But my body physically would not let me inside. It was like I was stuck in the entryway, and I then made a deal with myself. I would yell into the house, saying I had already called the police and that they were on their way.
Fuck!
Logic. I figured that would make anyone in the house leave.
Fuck!
So I
So
faced
close.
the inside of the house, looking down the hallway towards the bedrooms, and I did just that.
One
Say
enemy
anyone
remaining.
Customized car insurance from Liberty Mutual. I customize everything. Marco's backpack.
The second I had finished saying, "They're almost here, so if you want to avoid being
30
arrested, you
seconds
better
left.
leave now," The light in my host's room turned on and I heard some banging. Immediately, I hightailed it back to the car, called the police for real, and proceeded to have a mental breakdown while talking to the dispatcher. Once they arrived, they checked the house and didn't find anyone. The double doors in my host's bedroom were left wide open. I'm so glad the cats didn't get out. And there was a
Please
pile
do
of
not
food
mistake my
wrappers in
smile.
the
I
corner
take
behind
this
the
on very
blinds.
seriously.
So they said it looked like someone had been there. What makes it so scary to me is that nothing was taken, and that based on the shape of the house, that would have been the perfect vantage point to see me in the living room as I stayed home sick. To
112K
explain
cover.
this, the house was in an L shape, and from the windows into the garden that were in my host's bedroom, you could see into the living room windows. Also, the minute the police were gone, they said they couldn't prove anyone was there. There were no signs of forced entry, and we couldn't get a hold of my hosts immediately to verify if anything had been taken, which once they were back, they verified that nothing had been. So they said they'd do a patrol, but nothing else. The shy cat was right back in my host's
Last
bedroom,
player standing.
and I didn't see her again until I left to go back home. So basically, I think the intruder had been there at least 2 days, forcing her to choose between
Fuck,
two
so many.
strangers, and leading her to choose the one that was at least a little less strange. It messed me up pretty bad, especially because they didn't catch the person and didn't seem to have any desire to look, and I still had to stay in that house for the next 3 days. Nothing else odd happened, and I didn't feel anything off the rest of the time I was there, but the damage was done. I've never felt completely safe in a home without doing a complete search before bed since. But I am extremely glad my gut spoke up. I guess I'd rather have some residual anxiety than not be here at all. So whoever was in my host's house watching me,
Got me.
Teleport's broken.
please,
That's not ready.
never.
Here.
I'm a 23-year-old
I'm fucking so done. 120, dude?
Strike down.
She just
Attacker
heals it up.
of
I'm
ages
fucking
2
done.
and 6
Oh,
months.
that's a shit.
My fiance did live with us until 2 weeks ago, when I caught him with another woman and made him
Last
move out.
player standing.
That's important to the story. I'm a stay-at-home mom, and when he did
Oh
live with
my
us,
God.
my ex worked evenings. Let me set the scene. We live in a tiny house in northern Pennsylvania. My line of townhouses
Why not?
sits in front of a big field that runs
Attackers
in
win.
line with the woods.
Getting shat on anyway.
As far as I'm aware, these woods stretch for at least a few miles, and I'm not aware of any houses in the area or any roads that lead through them. My living room has 3 windows that look to the field, and my bedroom on the 2nd floor only has 1 window that faces that way as well. People do tend to walk their dogs back in the field, and kids sometimes play there, but I rarely ever see anyone close to my house. For that reason, I tend to leave my blinds and curtains open, partially because I just enjoy the
What
view.
is this?
July 2019, a year ago, I was laying in bed trying to fall asleep. All the lights were off, but I had my window and blinds open since it was warm. I was looking out the window,
Oh my goodness.
and I noticed small red
Like
and
it.
white lights just outside. I got up and looked to realize the lights were coming from a drone. I ran downstairs to
Oh my
where
God,
my
I want
fiance
one.
of the time was sitting in the living room.
Oh my God,
ran
that
to the
looks
window.
good, actually.
I told him what I saw, but of
I want
course,
that.
when he went to look, it was gone.
I kind of
I was
want that.
paranoid that the drone could have had a camera on it, and someone was watching me with it. I kept my blinds closed for a while after that. Fast forward to January of this year. I stupidly got comfortable and assumed that
When I
whoever
buy
it
that
was
with
flying the drone
Spectre,
was a one-time creep. My blinds were open,
better in black.
and I had just
Oh
gotten
yeah,
out of the shower.
that looks good,
I
bro.
was sitting on my bed, pretty much in my birthday suit
I can
except
name
for
the
my
fishes.
underwear, scrolling on my phone, when out of the corner of my eye I saw
Alright.
lights again from the dark window. It was that drone again.
Buy that one on
I
Friday.
ran out of the room and waited for a few minutes. I peeked back into my room and it was gone. I quickly shut my blinds again and got dressed.
Match found.
Honestly, I felt sick at how stupid I was to leave my window open again, especially when I was practically undressed. Now for the really disturbing part. My 2-year-old son and I were out in the field 2 weeks ago, 3 days after I kicked out my boyfriend. We were playing ball. I had my 6-month-old strapped to me in a baby carrier. Probably about a half hour after we'd been out there, I heard a slight whirring noise coming towards us.
Damn,
I
bro,
looked
my
up and
penis
saw
going
that damn drone
crazy.
flying towards us. I looked around and didn't see anyone. It stopped right over us. I freaked and grabbed my son and dragged him into the house, looking back at the tree line every so often as we went. I knew they had to be hiding in there. I went inside, closed the blinds, and called my mum and told her about the situation. She told me to just keep an eye out, and I said I would. My son likes to line up his toys along the windowsill, so I figured it wouldn't hurt to open them up just an inch or so. A little while later, after we ate dinner, it was almost dark. I was feeding my 6-month-old, and my son was playing. He was standing over by the window, lining up his toys, and he started saying, "Dada, Dada." I assumed he was just missing his father, and dismissed him by saying he was going to see him that weekend. He kept saying, "Dada, Dada." I looked up and saw him pointing to the window. Under the
I
little
know,
gap,
Sage.
the blinds
Don't hurt
didn't
myself.
cover.
But it's a
I
gunfight,
froze.
so no promises.
I remember that he calls any
Reloading.
man with facial hair Dada because it reminds him of his father.
Gotta go!
There was no way someone would be bold enough to actually come up to my window. Not when my neighbors are literally right there. Anyone could see them. But there aren't any lights back there. So unless someone actually stepped out their house, I guess no one would see them. Maybe it was my ex, but he should be at work at that time. I ran to the window and moved my son, and I didn't want to lift the blinds, but honestly, I was sure it had to be the person who'd been creeping on me for the past year, but I wanted to see who it was. I pushed the blinds up, and I was looking at a man that I had never seen before. He was bald with a moustache and goatee. I have no idea how old he was. He could have been anywhere from 30 to 50. When he saw me, he smiled and stood up. I yelled and told him to leave, and that I was calling the cops. He just stood there, smiling at me like some freak. I was about to close the blinds again when he said something I couldn't hear. I told him to leave again, and he said it louder this time. "I just want to talk to you." I shook my head.
Last player
No.
standing.
And he yelled the same thing over. He started slapping his hands on the window, yelling "no, no, no" over and over. I grabbed my phone, scared he was trying to break in, and dialed 911. My kids were crying from the yelling, and I was on the verge of tears. I told the operator what was going on. The whole time I was on the phone, the man was pounding on my window, screaming. He was yelling all kinds of nonsense, and I only caught some of it. He said he's been watching me for months, that I'm beautiful,
Go!
and he wants me to come with him, and that he'll end the lives of the little ones before me. The operator told me to go into an upstairs room and hide until the police arrive. My town doesn't have a police department, so we rely on the state police, and she said it would be about 20 minutes, but just to stay on the phone. The man was practically punching my window now, and I was screaming like a maniac. I was about to grab my kids and run upstairs when I heard someone else screaming.
I'm out of
The
here!
man bolted. I looked out and saw my neighbor and his girlfriend. I opened the window, and my neighbor said that he heard the man,
Almost
so
out.
he ran around the building. He said when the guy heard him, he ran back into the woods and disappeared into the tree line. They said they also had called the police. I thanked them 100 times, and the police got there 10 minutes later. They did a quick search around the buildings and in the trees, but obviously didn't find anything. I've been super paranoid since then, and stayed at my parents' a few nights after it happened. I don't know why that guy targeted me, or why he waited so long to do something.
Taken out!
I'm just happy my neighbors were there to intervene, or who knows what would have happened.
78.
So to the
And what's this
creatures
ping?
following
What's
me
this
and my
red
family
fucking
for
ping?
Enemy remaining.
I genuinely
Jesus.
hope we never meet
It's
again.
sad.
This happened a few years ago when I was 13 and my brother was 11.
I belong here.
My parents had
all
to go
belong
out
here.
and thought it would be better to leave me and my brother home alone. So that's what they did. And they left, taking my sister age 6 with them. Me and my brother were all the way
Wait,
down
high
in our
mind is
basement,
skin, but
which is where we had
I
our video
really,
game
really
set
want
up.
that.
And the two
aquarium
of
skin.
us were just downstairs playing Mario Kart on the Wii. We had the home phone in between us just in case one of our parents called. And an hour goes by, and the phone starts to ring. We look down, and the caller ID says Uncle. We decide to just let it ring, and how our phone worked, it would ring about 5 times and then stop. 1 ring, 2 rings, 3,
Spike down mid.
my brother doesn't pay
One
attention.
enemy remaining.
But I do realize for it to stop that early is if someone were to pick it up. And we were home alone. I get really suspicious and my paranoia gets the better of me. And I take my brother and we go upstairs and see the phone is still there. But there is still a phone on the 3rd floor and my parents' room. So
That
we go
scared the
towards
fuck
the
out of me.
stairs. And what we see chilled us to the bone.
Together,
A man
we will
in
bury
his late
them
40s
under
to
their
early
transgression.
50s is all I can really tell you. Because the second we saw him, me and my brother screamed, ran out the front and went straight to our neighbor's house. We told them what happened and they proceeded to call the police, then our parents. They came fast. I don't know what was wrong with the man, but he never left the house. He
Yep.
just stood there.
Yep.
And from what I heard,
Yep.
after he
Yep.
was arrested, he was placed in a
Gotta go.
mental hospital. The story may not be totally crazy compared to many others, but I just think what could have happened if my uncle
You motherfucker.
didn't decide to call. For context, I am female. My parents
One
got
enemy
divorced when I
remaining.
was 10 and my brother was 8.
Wow.
They
I
had
thought
bought
that
a
was a
house
fucking
in
clone,
a
to be
fairly
honest.
big plot of land and decided to split
But
it.
it flicked away so
The
fast.
house was demolished, and my mum was building a new house to live with me and my brother. We lived in a very small city that is known for its safety. Fast forward to when I was 15, and the house still wasn't ready. Me, my brother and my mum lived in an apartment really nearby to where they were building the house, so we would check in on it from time to time. It was an evening when me and my mum were getting back from the market and decided to check the house. As we were parking in front of the house, the car lights showed a man trying to jump the fence to get in. I was really freaked out, but my mum stepped out the car and shouted to the guy, asking what the hell he was trying to
Need
do.
a drop.
It was an old guy in his late 60s, really
Salamat,
tall
thanks.
and skinny. He was starting to bald, having hair only on the sides of his head. He was giving really creepy vibes.
Gun here.
He jumps
Go,
out
go,
of the
go.
fence and looks scared. He wasn't expecting someone to show up because no one would. He said he lived in the apartment building next to the house and was trying to cut down a branch from a tree that was knocking on his window. So my mum
Ah, I
said
should have
he was
pre-fired that a
trespassing,
little bit.
and if he wanted to do something in the house, he should have contacted her. She yelled at him to go away and not return. We went home and never really spoke about it anymore. A few months later, my family finally moved into that house. It was a cute home with lots of trees and space
One
for my
enemy
dogs
remaining.
to run free in. At the time, we had 3 dogs, 2 small ones and a border collie. Every day, we could hear a teenager female voice yelling at the apartment building next to our house.
If you've never seen
We
us
figured it was
together,
just some
this is what it
teenage
looks
drama.
like.
Because we could always hear her saying the same things every teenager
someone
says
get
to
this?
their parents. I don't want to live here. You don't get me at all.
The new best way to make money online that
The
nobody's
new
talking
best way to
about
make
is something
money
you've never heard
online
before.
is something stupid. What just happened?
And so we never really did anything about it. Some time passed, and my best friend moved to an apartment in that building. She said she
Have we
could
even
hear them
gone on the
yelling
other
for her
side yet?
father.
No?
Guess who the father was? The
Why
man
did I buy an
who was
op?
trying to get into our yard. That freaked me out a little bit, but I didn't have any proof he was doing something to her.
Oh my
Spike
fucking
down
One day I
A.
was eating some fruits in the front of my house with my dogs, and I heard someone scream, like a man and woman were fighting. I looked around and figured out it was coming from the building.
Last player standing.
As I looked at the building, I saw a woman falling from a balcony, but couldn't see if anyone had pushed her.
That's so
So I
fucked.
called an
Please stay
ambulance,
alive.
and they were
I
really
hate
fast
making
in
new
getting
friends.
What
her
a fucked up
and taking
day.
her to the hospital. At the same time, the police came and took a man that I couldn't get a good look at to see if it was the same one that was trespassing. I don't know what happened that day and who the man was. My dad then started building his house next to my mum's. I spent a lot of time in my best friend's apartment
break's over.
that was just by the creek. As I said, my yard was full of trees, and sometimes I could see animals there, like lizards, snakes, foxes, and possums. One day, me and my friend were on her balcony, and I could see a lizard walking on the wall that separated my house and the building. On the balcony next to her, a seasoned man showed up with a fire and tried
Almost a get old if it was a little sooner.
We began screaming at him, begging for him not to kill
Oh,
us.
yeah.
One enemy
He looked
remaining.
as surprised as before. I guess he thought he was alone. He said nothing and went back to his apartment. I told my dad about it.
Enemy spotted B.
He just said we shouldn't interact with that man. I was already 18 at this point, and things started to calm
Get
down.
down. Don't get
Or so I
stabbed.
thought.
Bad way to go.
It was an afternoon around 4, and I was home alone. I went for a walk with
I'm
my
outta
border
here.
collie. She's really sweet, and I was used to riding my bike, and she'd always follow me.
Gotta
So
go.
that's what I did. As we were coming home back to my house, just passing by the building, that man throws a very large rock at my dog.
Move.
She was running, so the rock hit her leg. I cursed him, went back to my house, looking at my dog to see if she was hurt. I told my mum, and
Face
she
your
said I should
fear.
never walk alone. Sometime later, I found a really cute but skinny cat at my college. I was sitting down smoking and this cat jumped in my lap. I came back to watch a class with him in my lap. We slept through the whole thing.
God, this game is so
He was
fucking
orange
fucked.
and he was a street. We let him go for walks in the street, and everyone liked him. He was really friendly and asked for
Last player standing.
people let him in
Spike
their
down
houses and
A.
frequently sent my mum pics of the cat on their yard or sofa. So we never thought he was bothering anyone by walking around. At this time, we were forgetting about the violent nature.
Man, bro.
We went on a trip to visit my
Oh.
grandma, and my dad stayed to take care of our pets.
Charge
He
and
said
shoot.
one night he heard
Easy
some
enough.
footsteps around his house, but as he walked out the front door, he couldn't see anyone. He thought it was just the dogs messing around, and went back to his house to go to sleep.
I'm out of
When we
here.
came back, we realized one of the trees back in my mum's house was dying. It was a really big tree, over 100 years old, one of the biggest in the yard, and was really beautiful.
Let's go.
As you can imagine, this was the tree the man was complaining about before, the first time we met him. So my dad went to look at the tree and found out it had a lot of
Fuck! Come on, man!
inside the tree and killed
What the fuck is
He
that?
also said we shouldn't tell my mum.
This game
because
is
it was
so
gonna scare her
dumb.
and make her more
Our
upset.
side carrier is dead.
Because the trees were the
Spike
main
down
reason
A.
she brought that to us. I never told her about it. Some time goes by and me and my brother moved out to another town to finish our studies. I wanted to take the cat with me, but my mum said it was going to be hard for him to adapt to
Do it.
living here. He liked so much
Guess it worked.
being able to walk around. So I agreed that he could stay with her. A few days later, she visited me and told me that
You
my
will
cat
not
had
kill
passed
my
away.
allies.
I was broken. How did it happen? She found him with his neck broken in front of the apartment building next to our house. His head twisted.
Fake
Last
television.
player
Still
standing.
alive. But as she arrived at the house, cat passed. She said that she thinks it was the man that did that. We didn't have any proof, But you know the feeling when you just know? I cried so much. He was my first cat and so sweet. My mom still lives in that house. She has 5 cats now, but none of them go out. And the man
Double the
is still
ping
her
of all
neighbor.
these fuckers. Still
I'm
doing
with her during
pretty decent.
quarantine, and I see him all the time, walking past our
We go.
house,
I'm out of
always
here.
looking up to see if someone is there. I later found out that the girl who fell from the balcony survived. She came back to the village, but I'm unsure if that was
What?
permanent or
What?
not. She took her things and went away. I don't know who pushed her,
Oh,
but my
it's,
best friend that lived in the
it's
same
stretch.
building said the man was still living there. A few months after this, a lot of creepy things started to happen on our neighborhood. About turning him to the police, well, when he threw a rock at my door, I reported him to the police, but nothing happened. I didn't contact the authorities about the other stuff, because I don't have any proof. Maybe we'll invest in cameras.
Last player standing.
This past Friday, I, a 27-year-old male, fell asleep around 8
One enemy remaining.
When I woke up around 9, I decided it was too late to go out, so I made a plan to run to the gym down the street instead for a late-night workout. The small all-men's gym is just about a mile down the road. It was empty and dark inside, but the owner had given me a door code to get in. However, for whatever reason, the code wasn't working, and I could not get to the gym. I wanted to work out, so I decided I would just extend my run and head up to the local middle school playground and do some pull-ups on the monkey bars instead. I figured it was better
Go, go, go.
than no workout at all. I got to the block that the middle school was on and began walking down towards the playground. On the way, I passed 2 young girls walking in the opposite direction. I would guess they looked about 11 or 12. They were silent and looked at me nervously as we passed. Understandable, as I'm a reasonably large man.
Last player
Oh my good
It's
lord.
almost 10 p.m. on an empty street at night. I live in a little suburban town of about 12,000 people, with little crime. It's a dry town with mostly larger residential homes. The town is only 2 miles across and is very safe, has a family feel, and most of the residents are upper-class families that take advantage of the great school system. Despite the reputation of safety the town has, I thought it was much too late and dark for these 2 young girls to be wandering the streets alone, and creeps can show up anywhere at any time. Something I would soon enough witness to be true. I hope they're heading home.
30 seconds left.
I then got to the playground attached to the middle school. The playground is on the corner of the block, with an alley leading to the parking lot behind the school, separating
Last
the playground
round in the
from
half.
the local high-speed line, going into the nearby city about 10 miles away. The
I'm outta
high-speed
here.
line is built underground, with an open top and high walls topped off with a chain-link fence to keep pedestrians from falling in. There is a bridge to cross the tracks below, and then another street on the other side of the tracks from the school running parallel to the rails, with one way going into the downtown business district, and the other way going into a residential
Here
neighborhood.
we go.
The young girls turn on this street, going towards the neighborhood looking down.
I fucking didn't mean to
I
slide.
did pull-ups on the monkey bars and was resting when I noticed a white pickup truck with the headlights cut and a raised cab with blacked-out windows covering the bed of the pickup truck, moving slowly past the middle school in the same direction of the girls. I found it very
Spike
suspicious,
down, B.
and even more so once the truck stopped directly in front of the playground, almost as though the driver/passenger was checking it out. I stared at the truck, wondering what was going on, when I noticed there was a man walking about 20 feet behind the truck in the same direction. As he passed the stopped truck, the window of the truck was rolled down and I could see there were 2 men in it. I clearly saw them look over and made a keep going forward hand signal to the driver/passenger, which followed his direction and started moving again, creeping slowly along with the
standing.
headlights cut
Spike
just as they
down,
were
mid.
before.
30 seconds
I
left.
watched as they crossed the tracks and saw the man on foot go right on the parallel road along the tracks towards downtown, while the truck went left on the same street towards the residential neighborhood in the same direction the young girls had gone no less than 3 minutes before. What the hell did I just
10
witness? I
seconds
thought
left.
to myself, as I tried to make sense of what I had just seen. To me, it seemed that the truck and man on foot were following
Switching
the young
sides.
girls,
What must
stopped
be
at the
done?
playground to see if that's where they were going, and kept going when they only saw me doing pull-ups. I felt sick to my stomach. I tried to think of what else these men could have been up to, looking for a lost dog? No, they weren't calling out, and were driving much too slowly. Doing a deal? Maybe. But what kind of deal goes down in a fairly well-lit school area? Also, the man on foot signaling the truck forwards, and then going the opposite way down the next cross street did not make any sense. In my head, I thought at best what I saw was some kind of deal, and at worst was two predators. I decided to follow the man on foot to find out. I followed him as he walked along the wall separating the sidewalk from the tracks below. On the other side of the street was a church and some office buildings. He was slowly walking and
Spike
texting
down,
someone
B.
on his phone. I turned around and saw the truck had stopped again about 2 blocks up the road in the opposite direction.
Spike
The
planted.
man on foot then completely stopped as I approached him. I couldn't be sure as to whether he realized
Oh my goodness.
Standing.
so
You gotta
I
get out of my way,
approached him in the
bro.
most casual way possible. The man looked to be in his early 30s, stood to about 5'10", with a slouch, had curly hair with a noticeable scar going down the side of his head through his hair. From the moment I began to speak, this man, I could
Time to
tell,
stop
was
back
very
up.
nervous. The way he acted and spoke with me made me even more suspicious up until the conclusion of our conversation. Admittedly, my adrenaline was going, so I don't remember how the conversation went word for word, but this is pretty much it. Hey man, what's up? What are you doing? Not much. Just hanging out? Just hanging out, huh? Where you going? Just...
Go, go, go.
I saw you signaling to that sketchy truck back at the playground. That was kind of weird. What's up with
Spike
that?
down B.
Nothing at all. I just waved at them as I walked by. You didn't just wave at them. I saw you make a
Almost
hand
out.
signal for them to keep going. I don't know what you're talking about.
Watch out.
I don't know them. I'm not stupid. I clearly saw you signal them. I know you know them.
Oh my
Just
god.
tell me what you're really doing out here because it's very suspicious. The creep at this point then nervously starts walking away from
Spike planted.
me. I'm not up to anything.
One enemy remaining.
I put my hand on the man's shoulder to stop him.
Reloading.
No? Stop. Tell me what you're doing right now. You're acting very sketchy, and it's making me nervous. I know you're up to something, so tell me the truth. I don't
Hey.
care if you're doing a deal or
Hey,
whatever.
where are you?
I'm not
Huh?
doing anything.
How are
I
ya?
swear
Good,
I'm a
how are you?
good Christian man. I swear.
Move in after
Then he
I
points
strike.
to a church behind me
That's
across the
most of
street. And me, as suspicious as ever, replies.
Smells good, like
I
toast.
didn't ask your religion,
Thank
what
you.
you were, or whether you're a good person or not.
buttered
I
toast.
asked what you're doing with that sketchy truck. Now, do you want to tell me, or should I call the police and have them come ask you? You can call the police. I'm not up to anything. Leave me alone. I'm scared. The man then turned to start walking away, faster this time. I admit I was quite angry at this point, and I knew I was clearly being
Tomorrow,
lied to.
bro.
This guy was definitely
Tonight.
up to no good.
It's tonight? I
Push
thought it was
him
tomorrow night.
Very hard
Tonight,
with one arm
26th.
to get him to stop.
Fuck yeah.
The dude loses his
Fuck
balance
yeah.
and almost falls
And
over.
then
but
Kenobi
then immediately
tomorrow,
starts
bro.
sprinting away from me down the street. Turns
Not
the
that
corner
that
to
interests
make a-
you, but yeah.
Two things are forever.
And the new season of Love, Death, Robots is out.
That's exciting.
I'm already on the second one, and it's really
to the
good.
downtown business
Get out of my
district.
way.
For a second
Passing
episode, I
right
should say.
past a few other pedestrians on the street.
Last
There
player
was no reason for
standing.
me to chase him,
Spike
so
planted.
I lost sight of him as he ran away. I
I'm
looked
outta
back
here.
at the truck down the road that was stopped at the beginning of the confrontation, and it was gone. I had to take out my cell phone and call the non-emergency
fuck.
police line to report everything. The police thanked me and sent a patrol car to the area by the middle school. When I told my girlfriend about what happened, she was very upset with me for following and confronting the man. However, after what I saw, I'm still convinced that I witnessed 3 men stalking 2 underage girls, possibly with intent. I could not come up with any other explanation
I'm outta
as
here.
to what could have possibly been going on. Seeing how nervous the man was talking to me, paired with how he lied and then took off running, only further convinced me of what I saw.
Take this.
I followed my dad
Oh my god.
pitch.
Should have seen
I
that
would do
one
it
coming.
all again. However, I would have called the police before confronting the man myself if I could redo the whole thing. My girlfriend's concern was for my safety, although I was much bigger than the man and made sure he was at least at arm's length at me at all times. He could have been armed, so I understand her concern. At the very least, I hope I thwarted a possible crime, and for the creep that ran away, let's not meet again.
You're squeezed, bro.
Our little village was the kind of place where everyone knows everyone, and I could count the amount of houses on two hands. We were a really quiet and close-knit
Spike
community,
planted.
and nothing proper out in the sticks.
Last player standing.
One night a few years ago, my mom and my stepdad had gone out to this concert and left me in charge of my little brother and the dog. I wasn't very old, about 14, and I felt really proud that my parents trusted me enough to do that. I thought I was a pretty cool big brother, and I thought we'd be doing cool babysitter stuff like staying up late and eating pizza. I'm kind of glad we did, because I don't know what would have happened if we hadn't. At about 10:30 the power cut out. I didn't think anything of it, because the weather hadn't been great lately, and I figured that had something to do with it. I got some candles out the cupboard and put some of our favorite songs on. As soon as I sat down, Sonny, my little brother, turned to me,
Running low.
and being the weird little kid he was, told me very calmly that someone was outside. I was a little perturbed
No
by
way.
him, but the dog hadn't done anything, so I presumed it was just the neighbors or something. He just
Spike
shrugged and went
planted.
back to his drawings. There's a running joke in our house
Last
that we
player
don't need a
standing.
clock with the dog around, because he's such a creature of habit. He will constantly get up at the exact same time every night to tell you it's time to initiate his nightly go-to-bed protocol. It was about 3/4 of an hour after the power went out when my dog decided that now was the time. I told Sonny to go get the dog his biscuit while I let him out for a wee. Now, our kitchen is an extension to the original house, and so, as such, has a flat roof that's comparatively low to the ground compared to the rest of the houses,
I'll
and
show them.
offers easy access to the bathroom window. As I opened the door so the dog could do his thing, Sonny pushes past me in the doorway and whispers, "I know you're out here, and I'm calling the police."
Watch out.
As he turned around, found a smile on his face. There was a very distinct rustling coming from just above the door. I don't think I'll ever forget the way Sonny's face dropped when he looked just above my head. I looked up. The man was sitting on the roof above me, panicked, tried to kick me, and then ran off into next door's garden, and presumably into the cornfield
Panics,
surrounding the
tried to
village.
kick me, and then ran
I
off
was
the
beyond
field.
terrified, and Sonny was crying his eyes out.
What doing, puppy?
I ushered him inside as quickly as I could, and retrieved
Spike
the
planted.
pointy metal object from the kitchen. We both went back to his room, and I told him to try to get some sleep while I waited for our parents to come back.
I'm back.
Last player
Surprisingly
standing.
long, 4 hours before they did. My stepdad immediately went outside to check to see if everything was alright. I heard them talking about how something had smashed the fuse box. Obviously, we called the police, but they didn't come until later that day. They did a search of the immediate premises
One enemy
and found a
remaining.
makeshift bed in a nearby disused barn, along with pictures of silhouettes of us in the shower through the frosted glass. I think it's pretty safe to say the whole experience definitely shook us up. We moved out there as soon as we could, but I still shut curtains whenever I can,
the last thing they'll see.
and I see shadows underneath every door I see. Sonny keeps quiet about it, but I'm not sure if that's just because his brain has cut it out or what.
Go, go, go.
I'm 28 years old. But when I was about 5, my mum and I lived in this duplex that was off a main road and kind of in a wooded area. We lived on one side and on the other was a woman and her son. He was studying to be a teacher. My mother had me young, so she was about 25
Oh
and the
my
guy was in
goodness.
his early 20s. He would often come over to talk to my mum. My mother said he would ask a lot of questions about me and asked my mother if it would be alright for him to take me for walks in the woods.
Get out of my way!
My mother always declined. My mother worked in the
Face your
operating room
fear!
at the local
Your
hospital
duty is not.
and was on call a lot.
Spike
So most
planted.
weekends I stayed at my grandma's house. One night while I was at my grandma's house, my mum was at home alone.
Last player standing.
She awoke in the middle of the night and said she doesn't remember if she heard something or felt someone in the room, but she woke up. She could see feet wearing socks sticking
Match
out
point.
from the end of her bed.
Remember,
She
bullets
grabbed
work.
her bedside lamp and was about to hit the intruder when our neighbor yelled her name and said his name. He couldn't explain why he was in her bed, naked, and only wearing socks. But he
Attackers
begged
win.
my mother to not tell his mother about it. My mother, of course, called the police. She ended up going to court and making a victim impact statement against this guy because she was terrified he'd become a teacher and be around children. She says she's pretty sure he was there for me that night, and I'm so happy I wasn't. We ended up moving immediately because she couldn't stay another night in that house. My old house was pretty pumped up on security. We had finger IDs, passcodes on doors, and cameras everywhere. An automatic security system that could call the police or play fake. Cops have been called. Blah,
Jesus,
blah, blah.
man, what is with this
The story happened a
allergies?
few years back. My dad noticed a weird-looking man, pretty covered up, lurking on the streets just outside our house. We thought nothing of
Play
it,
Hunter
since
Called
sometimes you get the
Wild.
occasional drunk or high person wandering around. But this man started to inch closer and closer to our house. First being on the opposite side of our street, then before we knew it, it being basically on our property. We just sort of watched him to see what he would do. I'm pretty sure we got bored and walked away and just forgot. Then we started to hear strange noises coming from downstairs, where our front door was. We decided to switch on the camera, and sure enough, this guy is banging on our door trying to get in. Then he looks through the window. He gives up and then starts to go around the side. There was a set of
What do we
stairs
wanna
that
play?
led to the upper area where we were, and he starts to head up, which sent my dad to go to the side of the house where he was with a weapon and scream at him. This guy runs and we don't see him again. That was the end though, right? Wrong. He comes back again. I guess he saw that the car was gone from the driveway, as my dad had to
What
go
do I
get
do?
something, leaving me and my mum, and he looks around. We didn't want to confront this guy, so we had an idea of playing the fake cop alert that could be
We'll
heard
play some Enter the
outside.
Gungeon, fuck it.
So we played it, and as soon as the guy heard it, he ran. Never saw him again after that. What makes this story creepier is on the news later it showed a guy who lurked around houses and then elected to end their lives. He'd been arrested, and it was the same man who was at our house. This first started when I first moved into my new place, last summer in 2019. I live with my landlord, her elderly mum, and my friend Daisy. I also started a new job working night shifts at a hotel, so I was up most nights. I'm gonna preface this story with some background info that will help everything make sense. Since my landlord knew her neighbours very well, as she lived in this house all her life, and there is hardly any street parking, I was able to park in the vacant house's driveway, directly parallel across the street from ours. When I park my car, I can see the front of my place with my walking doors. Our house is right in front of a very busy stop sign, so seeing/hearing traffic is something we all have to get used to. Daisy and I identify as women and are best friends that met in college. We've known each other for a few years at this point and did everything together. I remember it was a warm summer Thursday. Daisy and I loved to leave the house past midnight, eat terrible fast food, roll the windows down and drive along the coast. It was around 1:45 a.m. as I finally pulled up to my partner's place. We sat in the car for a while, listening to music and finishing the last bit of our late night munchies. My windows were up by this time, but we could hear a bigger car like a diesel approaching the stop sign. Of course, it was a stereotypical white van that prompted me to joke, "Daisy, look at that creepy white van." From my rearview mirror, the next thing we knew, we saw what looks like a thin man pick up his camera from the passenger side and took at least 5 pictures of the front of our house with the flash on. Daisy and I silently looked at each other in horror as the van sped on. The next day, Daisy and I told our landlord about the incident and told us this was not the first time one of her tenants reported this. Though she brushed it off despite us telling her that anyone taking pictures of her house late at night did not have good intentions, it really put me and Daisy right. Some time has passed as the coronavirus pandemic crept its way into the US towards the end of 2019. I was going to file a police report as I eventually caught most of the person's license plate after what felt like months of investigating. At the beginning of February 2020, the van stopped coming, which caused me to think the pandemic either may have gotten the person sick or affected them in some way. Although the person didn't take any more pictures as far as I saw, when the van drove by, it came from the same direction every time, around 1 to 1:30. It would stop for an eerily long amount of time, and then would speed off out of nowhere, as if the person were racing another car that was never there. I did stop investigating after 2 weeks of nothing. I still get very anxious if I hear a loud, diesel-like vehicle drive by late at night. I don't know what the person wanted, or why they were taking pictures of my landlord's house. Maybe once quarantine is lifted, I might investigate again, to ensure that the creep comes no more for his late-night visits. My name is Starla. I was born and raised in Toledo, Ohio. I'm married and have 1 child from a previous relationship. My husband is on dialysis due to kidney failure. He does it at home now, but the story I'd like to share with you took place at a time when he was actually getting his dialysis treatment at a center. One day I was home alone, just writing music and listening to free instrumental vibes via YouTube. My son was with his father at the time.
Okay, where the fuck did this big guy come from already?
So I turned down the music and listened for about 3 to 5 minutes, and I heard nothing. I thought perhaps my ears were playing tricks on me, since I'm known to be a very paranoid person.
Oh my
I
god,
then
it
turned
been
the
so
music
bad.
back up and heard a knock on the door again. This time my mind wasn't playing tricks on me, so I slowly crept down to the door and looked through the peephole, and then I saw him. Someone squatted, I'm assuming waiting for me to open the door. I then backed away and heard a voice say, "I know you're in there. Let me in, or I'll break in." I yelled and told them to leave me alone. I didn't know who they were or what they wanted, but I would be calling the police. And what he said next made my skin crawl. "The police won't be able to save you, so I'm good at keeping up with time. Get the secret." In other words, the police wouldn't mind it. Then he said, "This door isn't open by the time I count to 5, I'm breaking in." After he counted, he started to kick in my door. I ran to my bedroom and
Oh
locked it to
no,
find
we
the
don't want
police.
to do that.
As I was locked in my bedroom, I heard him rambling
Definitely not
through
ready for
things and
that
saying
yet.
how he was going to find me. So come out, wherever I was hiding. He then came to my bedroom door, started turning the door knob, and I was sweating grease in a skillet while he was trying to open it. But that didn't last too long, because about 10 minutes after, they caught him and arrested him right then and there, and made me go downtown to file a report. When I went to court to testify and rest my case, the judge told me I was lucky that I got away, and I asked, why? Apparently, the man that broke into my house was actually wanted for breaking into another person's home that he had been stalking for quite some time, and ended her life, an elderly lady. I feel bad for whoever the lady was, but don't get me wrong, I'm happy and relieved that I was one of the ones who made it out alive. I told my husband all about it, and he was more angry than anything. We soon moved out of that.
Real cowboys customize and save with Liberty Mutual.
Hey, Tex, did someone else get a turn?
That place
Yeah,
where this event
crossbow.
happened, and have never had
The
to
basketball will
experience
take it.
anything like that again. When I was about 6 years old, my mum officially ended her on and off relationship with my father, and we moved into a small but cozy one-room apartment. I had my own room while my mum would sleep on a bed couch, as she preferred to fall asleep with the TV. We were on the 3rd floor, and the first door on that floor. We only had one neighbor. When we first moved in, I was in school and my mum
Oh,
was
did I just fall
unpacking
off?
home.
What the fuck?
After she dropped me off, she met our neighbor who lived next door. She introduced herself as his new neighbor, but he looked very resentful for some reason, as if my mum did something bad. After the introduction, he asked, "So you're the new neighbor?" Which was weird because my mum had just introduced herself as such, but regardless of that weird question, she said yes, and that she lived here now with her daughter, me. My girlfriend was supposed to move in
I might
here,
need the
but
armor.
then she couldn't because you got the place first, he said to my mum grumpily. My mum was confused but apologized for his inconvenience, and that was the first weird encounter with the neighbor. After we'd lived here for some months already, he suddenly became very friendly. Before, we would only meet him on the floor sometimes, but he rarely left his house anyway. So we basically never saw or interacted with him. Then suddenly, one day, my mum was coming home from work with me after picking me up from school. And he was standing at his door drinking coffee. "Hello, Mary. I have made coffee.
Oh shit, what was that?
Would you like to have some and come inside?" My mum politely declined. She looked a bit frightened. He was a very tall man, and I think the sudden change in his behavior since the last conversation must have creeped her out a little bit. We went inside and I asked what that was all about. She told me she believed that he might have a mental illness, and I agreed that this could
That's
be
interesting.
plausible, so we left it at that.
Don't know what I just hit.
Some
But
days went by and nothing happened with the neighbor. We wouldn't actually see him at all in the days that he wasn't communicating with us. Some nights later, I woke up from playing Hit Me Baby One More Time by Britney Spears very loudly, because I was around 6 or 7. I was thinking it must be the 4 a.m.ish
Trigger
music videos on
twins.
TV on some channel from my mum's living room. And I just left it on, since my mum didn't seem to hear it or complain while I was asleep. The next day, I asked my mum about the music, and she said she had turned off the TV after she dozed off, and it wasn't her, and told me she didn't hear it. So I just assumed I imagined it. Some days later, I awoke to the sound of music once again. This time I was sure I was awake and heard it. I went to the living room
That
to
shouldn't
wake
have really
my
hit
mum
me,
and
but-
noticed that you couldn't hear it from the living room. I woke my mum to show her the noise and she clearly heard it too. She wandered around my room to see which direction the sound was coming from, until she put her ear up against the wall, facing the neighbors. After listening for a few minutes, she confirmed to me it was coming from this side, and that it was the neighbor, as we didn't have other neighbors. She called the police and complained to them about the music, and that it woke me up, and she had a child that needed to go to school the next day and was losing sleep. The police arrived 30 minutes later, and we stood in front of our closed door to listen to the conversation between our neighbor and the police. They told him a neighbor complained, and that he needed
Sweet.
to turn down the music as it was already way past midnight.
Sweet,
He
and I
was
got my
very
armor back.
blunt and avoided any further talk with the police, just saying okay all the time. After we heard the police leave and his door close, we went to bed. Immediately the next day, he was standing in front of his door at my mum's when she was coming from work home alone. He asked her something along the lines of, "Did you call the police on me?" My mum, a single mother living next to a tall man who gave off weird vibes, lied and denied the allegations. He asked her if she liked the music, and my mother told me it left her speechless. She said she didn't like Britney Spears. My mum was always the Bon Jovi kind of woman, and this still amuses me to this day. And quickly left to go into her own apartment. As it was Friday that they had the encounter, she would stay in most of the weekend being safe from the weirdo. But I wasn't there, so I didn't know what creepy things she might have noticed on the weekend. On Sunday, I came back from my dad's in the later evening. After dinner, I would go to bed as I had school the next day. Again, I woke up at night because of the same Britney Spears album. This time it was Toxic. I woke up my mum again and she came into my room banging against the wall.
What?
Revealing
Should've
in
blocked
that
it.
moment by doing that it was her that had called
Whatever.
the police the other day. We heard the music being turned down lower, but not turned off, and the neighbor screamed through the wall, "Do you like that song, Mary?" And then turning the music back up. My mum, understandably creeped out, called the police again, but before they could arrive, he turned off the
Oh my
music
God.
and the police couldn't do anything, as he turned the music off about 20 minutes already before they left. I guess he heard my mum say that she was going to call the police again, and I didn't sleep well that night, and my mum didn't sleep at all. A few things happened since then that were rather
Oh my
unsettling.
god, that's fucked.
For example, we could sometimes hear him literally listening into our conversations. My mum's phone calls of when my mum had guests over, we could hear him moving rooms to the same direction as we did, and him walking against the wall and then stop walking,
That's good.
indicating he was listening. Really creepy stuff, but my mum had no solid proof to call the police against it. One day, we would walk our dog, a female golden retriever, and he would watch us from his window. When my mum noticed that for the first time,
God.
she looked out for it the next time, and he was watching us from the window again. At this point, if not earlier, my mum had told my uncle about the neighbour, who would then show up once to knock on his door with the intention to tell him to leave us alone. But he didn't open the door to him. He was very clearly home, and we could see him move inside. My uncle screamed through his door. We hoped he would get scared off a bit by him, but he didn't. At that point, my mum didn't leave me alone anymore, not even in the apartment. I had to come here with her wherever she went. Once we were walking the dog again, and he happened to come down the stairs at the same time. He would stop and say, "Oh, she's a
goodness.
good dog." But how did he know she was female? My mom became so frightened. She didn't even reply, but acted like we had forgotten something in the apartment, and we went back inside, as we didn't want to be outside when he seemingly was as well.
What?
It was clear he was listening to everything we said through the walls, to the point he even
That's so
knew our dog
fucked.
was female. Some time went by, and we would just notice his usual creepy behavior of watching us from the window, listening through the walls, and the occasional Britney Spears music at night. Suddenly we were coming back from the grocery store, and there happened to be a piece of paper trapped on his door. We looked at it, and it was a phone number. Without saying anything to me, my mum just looked at me briefly, took the paper, and we went inside our home. We looked at the paper and noticed he wrote it on the back of a recent grocery receipt, where he apparently had bought tons of cheese and bread, which was very strange. She told me she was going to ring the number anonymously, and I should record it with my emergency cell phone. She started calling the number anonymously. I began recording, and the neighbor immediately picked up. Looking back, I guess he saw us taking the note through the peephole.
What does that do?
He furiously started shouting into the phone, "Mary, it's 4:56, you should have called." He kept only saying this on the phone. We could even hear it through the wall. He repeated this, then laid down the phone, walked around his room as we could hear him because his voice was becoming more and more distant, but kept saying the same thing.
Shouldn't have
My
taken
mum
that
called for
crossbow.
1 minute, then hung up. We were freaked out. I remember I was very scared and begged for my mum to stay somewhere else tonight. But my mum says, no, this ends today. And it did. Hours later in the evening, something crazy happened. We didn't do anything. All my mum did was
God
call my
damn it.
dad to let him know what was going on. And he was on high alert to come over any
How
time.
did I do that last time?
We suddenly heard a knock on the door, not a neighborly knock.
Oh my
It was a
fucking
police
god.
knock. My mum
Whatever.
jumped up, obviously cautious, walking to the door, looking through the peephole.
Oh, it's
And
tab,
it was
huh?
the neighbor. Before
Yeah,
my mum could
fuck
react, he knocked again. Mary, what's wrong? You haven't walked the dog. Open the door. My mum answered the door. Asked him to go away, but he didn't. He kept talking through and knocking on the door. I got scared and asked my mum to call the police or my dad. The neighbor suddenly said, "Don't worry, Veronica. Don't be scared." I got 100% more scared and so did my mum. She started screaming through the door to piss off and leave us alone. But he wouldn't. My mum, I don't know why, opened the door and told him loudly to leave us alone. Very seriously. I don't know what he said back really, but I don't really think it made much sense. As my mum was about to close the door on him again, he suddenly put his foot in between to try and force his way in. My mum pushed the door against his body and screamed for help while he still tried to get into the apartment. I freaked out and started crying.
Alright, let's
I
get it.
grabbed the fishing net I had and hit the neighbor with the handle of the net. After what seemed like only 2 minutes, a neighbor from upstairs
That's-
ran downstairs.
oh,
pulling
no!
the guy away from the door and holding him
I'm
against the wall.
fucked.
My mum told me to go into the living room, but I stayed close so that I could see. Our upstairs neighbor was shouting at the creepy one.
Oh, I hate this game.
That we're a woman and child living there and he is a danger to us. The creep then quickly disappeared into his own apartment, and the good neighbor came to check up on us, telling us the guy had always given him weird vibes.
Done
In
with that.
fact, mentally ill. And this apartment was given to him by governmental support. We thanked him for his help, and he informed us that he had called the police before, and they would be coming shortly, and he was waiting for the police to serve as witness. My mum called my dad for additional support, who almost arrived with the police at the same time. The police then knocked on his door, and after he asked who it was, the police told him someone had called them due to him harassing his neighbors. He opened and demanded to see their badges, which they showed, and my mum and I could look inside his apartment, and it seemed empty. He didn't have much furniture, and it seemed like he just moved in, with essential things missing like a fridge. The walls were dirty. He then said he didn't do anything, but the good neighbor told the police what happened. The creep then got asked for his ID. He said he didn't have any. The police didn't believe him and said if he couldn't provide ID, they would come back with a search warrant so they could help him find his ID. He came back a few minutes later with his ID. Then they quickly looked up his record and they confirmed that he was mentally ill, that it wasn't told to us, and that he had been stalking another person once before. Maybe his girlfriend who actually wanted our apartment, and that they can't make a move due to governmental protection, but they can talk to him.
What up, Emery?
About his
Playing
incident.
some Total War
And
Warhammer.
At the end of the tour, they really
I've never played it
recommended my
before, so
mum
we're just
move,
checking it out for a
as they
sec.
know law enforcement can be slow in these cases, as they didn't want to risk either mine or my mum's well-being. My dad was now coming round more often, due to this, for 2 months until we moved.
It is a
We
dark
left
age,
the place to my cousin.
an age of war. The gods are cruel, and we are their playthings. But this is no game. It is ceaseless war, with the old world its prize. Many seek the path to victory, but only one can stand glorious over all. From the Badlands come the orcs and goblins, a green tide of brutal creatures that must be stopped. In Sylvania, the dead rise again. The vampire counts march forth. The mighty dwarf kingdoms, long thought diminished, are resurgent under their high king. And at the old world's heart stands the Empire. Karl Franz must prove worthy of the Warhammer. Then there is chaos. Its corrupting, changing taint despoils all before it. Only the strongest will endure. War is upon us. It is unending.
Alright, that's pretty good. Shit. What the fuck just happened? Among the bitterest rivalries of recent years in the struggle between the Elector Count of Midland, Boris Todbringer, and the Beast Lord, Kazrak the One-Eye, both despise and yet grudgingly respect each other. The two rivals have clashed on several occasions since, but now the battle for the Great Forest is truly about to begin. This campaign is a more focused narrative experience, a desperate clash between two legends of Drakwold. We'll do that. Oh, what? I can't play it? Fuck you, I ain't paying any more money for your game. So we go to the old world. Famous battle sites, improved quality, quantity of troops available. Throw the Blood Kiss can be spread within enemy territories, leading to public order issues and vampiric rebellions. Varied unit rosters with flying units, monsters, and expendable undead troops. I like that. Greenskin can use underground tunnels to avoid impassable terrain and enemy forces. Okay.
Impress. Let us make doom.
Ooh. There's different leaders. Oh, alright, alright.
I'll take Sigmar's throne.
Okay, campaign movement range. Keep -10 for Graveyard and Black Knights units.
Spread the rot. Master of unlife.
Poison attacks. Casualty replenishment array. Oh, of course he's a DLC.
Darkness come. The true Von Carstein. Find me, Gravebound.
Fuck it. We're gonna jump right in, fuck it. We're sending it.
War is eternal. As inevitable as the grave.
Blow my nose.
Old world, the rotting corpse within. Some fools think it worth saving. But there are beings who wish to bring about an eternal night. I am a bearer of law to those with such power.
Ugh.
The mighty vampire counts of the Von Carstein bloodline. My master, Manfred, has returned from the dead once more. He marches on the Von Carstein ancestral pile of Castle Dragonhof. For I have brought him ill news that a master necromancer has claimed the fortress as his own. Manfred must retake his ancient stronghold, and either destroy the usurper within, or bind him to his will.
Alright, let's see how this goes. Hopefully he doesn't just throw me right fucking in.
The Von Carsteins have risen once again, mighty Lich Master, and you are to march into the world as their chosen champion. Let them believe you are their willing puppet. For now, there is much to be done. The Templehof brood control the lands to the north as far as the River Ster. Conflict with them is inevitable, but your will is indomitable. Take their lands, burn their crypts, and deploy their own dead against them. The high mountains to the south are infested with dwarfs. Your homelands will never be safe with such an enemy so close. Make plans to drive their stunted kind out in time. A great destiny awaits you, Kemla. It has been foreseen. Bring about eternal night, and you shall be rewarded.
Right. Okay. Both group must be crushed in battle before they're able to regain their strength. Another victory against Von Kruger's armies will leave his lands rightfully taken. Defeat an army belonging to the following faction in battle: Tempelhof.
Missions may be issued from time to time by those interested in your progress. These can be reviewed at your request, my lord.
Okay. Missions may be issued from time to time to guide the progress of the faction. They're optional to complete. Quests, grudges, and missions can be seen in the missions list. Members of the Dead stir across the Dread Province of Sphania. They're vampires of the uncrested bloodline have ever sought to the throne. This is what they do. Interesting. Okay, objectives. Oh, it's turn-based. Like, I don't like how I have to do that, though. It's a little weird. Okay.
Relations with foreign powers may be managed through diplomacy, my lord. Consider your situation carefully before accepting any agreement.
It's true. Maybe we can make friends with this person.
Thou may speak for now.
I need... Wow. Gotcha. So this is exactly like,
Now.
I am gonna need to do a little bit more research on this game, I think.
I advise you to seek ways to further your methods of war, my lord. Put your best minds to work improving your knowledge and practices.
Oh, only one can be researched at a time. Okay. beasts. Oh, vampire curse. Stray volume of the Bionic into the black is filled with secrets for instilling vigor and other deadly abilities into zombified and skeletal vessels. That's what I want. I want to raise undead armies from those that fucking mess with us. Takes the power of the mighty in one of the 9 books of Nagash. It contains countless rituals to ensnare wrathful spirits and ghoulish creatures and imbue such foul things with dread power. Said to be transcribed from scrolls from Empire 2 himself. The Great Codex instructs recently sired vampires in the art of infiltrating, influenced by the memory curse across the world. I think we're going to start with this.
My lord, the enemy raid your lands and slaughter your denizens. Take up arms against them. Make them pay dearly for their transgressions. Your kind are a nightmare made flesh, sire. Yoke the power of the dead and you shall be unstoppable.
Unstoppable.
Tomb rot.
Zombies. What do they have? This is interesting. Well, they are coming in here, huh?
The enemy have encircled your city, my lord. Send a force to aid the city defenders before they are starved. Assistance is available should you need it, my lord. You may rely upon it. Your grip on Drakenhof is not yet secure, Dark Lord. Pacify those that stir against your rule before they take arms and rise up.
It is night. Let us make do.
Such a thing is impossible. Cease. It is an imbecilic thing to bother me. Others who...
That's not what I meant to do. Now, what the fuck is all this shit? So, overview, garrison, browsers. Cannot build. Okay. Okay.
No. I'd wither first.
That's not what I was going for here. Why does this go in and out so weird? What the fuck? I am so confused. So how do I move him?
Find me, grave-bound. What? Onwards. War it is.
Battle is upon us. Study your options carefully. The enemy are close. Blood will be spilt.
Fight it manually. I have to fight this battle manually? What the fuck? What do you mean? Okay, maybe I would have done this a little bit better then. What is 4 expendables and some hounds? I got some reapers. Yeah, I'm gonna be okay. Better time to learn than now, I guess.
Your
Oh my
soldiers are
god.
ready to deploy for
What does
battle,
gamble
my
mean?
lord. They await your orders.
Oh god, I don't know if I can handle this type of shit. Did I win? Gambling never pays. What just happened?
Be sure to use your mounted soldiers to full effect, Commander. Harass the enemy formation and strike at their weakest points.
Uh-oh. That's a fucking problem. Now, how do I move? Shit. Okay. Oh my god. I hope those are our reinforcements. Yeah. Thank goodness.
The winds of magic blow strongly in this place, Commander. Harness its power and channel it against your enemy.
Go get them, boys. First wave. Go. Ah, it is WASD, huh? Shit, they're getting torn apart. Scroll wheel for zoom. Okay. Have you played this before, Emery?
The enemy attack your flank, Commander. Drive them off.
My flank? You feel the historical ones like Rome? Nice. What does he mean, attack my flank? Enemies are attacking units' flanks. How do I avoid this? Have them attack in formations. I was trying to do that. I didn't realize they all moved so slow. That's my bad. I was figuring out all the controls and stuff. Yeah, I just did that. Okay, I guess you don't go in there and auto-attack, you weirdo. Gotcha. I have so many units that I don't think it really matters for this one, but yeah, that's a good feature too. Kind of just overwhelming them. Why is my lord in the middle of the battle? Sweet. The units that affect morale like monsters. Oh. Oh yeah? I'm playing the undead, so it shouldn't really bother anybody, bro. Playing as the undead. I only lost 146. That's not bad. That could be worse. Oh, I have options to do with the captives? What? Yeah. I can return them, so casualty replenishment rate is -5%. I can feed them to the dire wolves. I can You will subsume all your influence at any pitiful lich before the shrine your majesty in its place. Bro, we're gonna murder. We're gonna murder them all. Fuck it. Potion of toughness.
Those that serve your cause gain experience over time, my lord. Be sure to guide their development to your advantage.
They've reached ranked 2.
Eshin is vulnerable to attack.
They squishy, yeah.
Seize it from the enemy to open a new front to the north.
Shin.
Never.
Turn them to death.
Your army has marched all it can, my lord. They must rest.
Oh yeah? They really gotta rest?
Tomb rot.
Y'all are motherfucking lucky.
Your last mistake.
So I guess I can raise. How do I assign skill points? Oh my god. What the fuck is this shit? What, so is this the stuff that's already... seconds, allied leadership is broken. On the wall. Resurrects dead combatants, replenishes hit points of combatants, and heals injured before resurrecting. That didn't even work, did it? Oh, it did.
They will all pay.
Interesting, you can even merge units and stuff. Turn on that. My goodness.
Dwarfs, my lord. These runts rarely emerge from under their mountains. Don't be fooled by their stunted height. They are hardy, stubborn creatures, and are not to be underestimated in battle.
Okay.
Spread the rot. Ready. Now.
So we're gonna go ahead and
Cease, then go. Destroy them.
let's go fuck them up. Now, what is all this shit? Oh my goodness. Armies have action points. Gotcha. Only move so far per turn. I was gonna attack, Templehoff. It was worth a little more, and I got a whole fuck ton of units.
Strike out!
A new army has been raised under the command of your appointed lord. It only remains for you to issue them orders, sire.
You dare.
So he's gonna come here.
Everything dies. The spirits agree. You will fail. I relish the opportunity. Bats and wolves, gather.
New armies need a turn to get AP. Gotcha.
The dead may be summoned to your will, my lord. Rapidly augment your forces by raising the slain to your banner.
Fight melee, you don't have to undergo training. The pool rules available to raise points over time. Units raised when they're dead are generally more expensive than those recruited normally. More units normally raised there to a famous battle maker or battle marker. Gotcha.
Bring me flesh to craft.
It is night. Find me grave bound. Darkness comes.
Send it.
Commit, minions, commit.
The enemy city is fortified, my lord. Weapons will be needed to bring down the walls. Prepare your warriors for a long siege.
Maybe. Am I ready for a siege, though? Yeah, fuck it. We can do it. There's no way they have any siege weapons or anything, right? 14 turns until this settlement surrenders. Think I can take it before then? Fuck it. We'll continue.
Raise them.
We'll see how that goes.
Soon,
And our boy over here.
Cease. Darkness comes.
I guess he's busy building stuff.
My lord, a rival power desires a change in your mutual relations.
Isn't that who I'm fighting right now? What does he want? Their demands. They will receive this payment if the deal gets accepted in a non-aggression pact. Kiss my ass. We don't do that stuff. We don't do open borders and that kind of stuff. Sorry.
You dare. Darkness comes.
Kill them, my children. War it is. Obliterate.
What's up, Addie? How you doing?
Bring war.
I don't think anybody's gonna come here and fuck with me. But you'll be like, "Hi, man. We'll have fun doing your stuff. We'll just be chilling here, learning this stuff."
You dare.
Consider varying your tactics when maneuvering in the face of the enemy, my lord. Placing an ambush or setting a defensive camp may bring about victory where...
Now they die. Kill them, my children. Obliterate.
Slept the longest 7 weeks. Alright, I'll counter offer you. How about the amount of 1,100? And you get a demand of, and you get, yeah, exactly. Get fucked. Get fucked. I don't know what your offer anyway. Oh yeah? Peace treaty, huh? How about this? No thanks. We're just gonna take everything you have.
Raid the lands of the enemy, mighty lord. Send your warriors out to slaughter the peasants and burn their villages. Make...
Turn them to death.
Easy.
At last, the defenses have fallen, my lord. The fate of those that remain is yours to determine.
Loot and occupy, baby.
The day approves. The taint of undeath is spread by your conquests, mighty lord. Your realm grows, and more distant lands now fall under your gaze.
Darkness comes. What?
Don't know what that was I just did, but we'll fucking send it.
What? Destroy them. Yes, the time is right.
Just woke up a few minutes ago, huh, Eddie? It's pretty crazy. Pretty long sleepy.
Consider merging some units in this army, my lord. They will be better placed to survive the...
You dare destroy them. Destruction!
The city has been reached, and your warriors are prepared for battle, mighty lord. Study your options, nevertheless. Encircling the enemy and starving them out may be the wisest course of action.
Nah, I got an undead army. What do you mean? Yeah, we're literally just gonna beat you.
Shuffle. Darkness comes. Do not mistake me for the fool.
Thrall Master. Now both of my forces are here. Ah, I gotta save though. I gotta save and stop though. Alright team, that's it for me. I appreciate all of you guys watching. That was fun. That was a fun new game. Sorry, Addie, that you got here at the end, but that's the way she goes. I gotta go to work. So, wish me luck, all you cool cats and kids. And I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye.